May the 16th, grasses. May is a good time to start getting to know different grasses. A small number are now in flower or starting to come into flower, and these can act as introductions to the various different types, for example, meadow grasses, fescues, rye, bromes, hair grasses, and fruit grasses. Next month, there will be many more, and it will be much more difficult. Although there are flowering plants, grasses have no flamboyant sepals or petals. Being wind-pollinated and not needing to attract insects, their flowers are usually tiny and hidden away inside dull-coloured bracts or scales. What we see as a flower head in a grass is called a panicle, and what might pass as flowers are called spikelets. Inside the spikelets, which we can see with the naked eye, are the true flowers, which are called florets. There can be just one or several florets in a spikelet, and a lens is really needed to examine them any further. Any bristle or hair-like structure is projecting out of a floret or spikelet is called an awn, and their presence or absence is often important in securing a field identification. The only grass that you may have noticed a lot, as it is everywhere and has been in flower since January, is Annual Meadow Grass Annua. Its panicle is triangular in outline with small, greenish, occasionally violet-tinged spikelets set upon paired branches. Each spikelet has between 2 and 5 florets inside it, and no awns projecting from any of them. Any meadow grass comes into flower this month. Another meadow grass comes into flower this month and is generally very similar looking, but usually much larger. This is the smooth meadow grass, Poa pratensis. Its panicle is similarly triangular shaped, but its branches differ, coming off the main stem in whorls rather than paired branches. It also has no awns projecting from its florets. It is one of the greenest grasses, greatly adding to the beauty of meadows, as well as lawns and sports pitches. Two other very early flowering grasses that tend to get noticed, especially on walls or sandy ground, are the early hairgrass, Era praecox, and the silver hairgrass, Era carophylla. The most noticeable thing about early flowering hairgrass is its diminutive size. It rarely exceeds 10 centimeters in height. You usually just notice a neat tuft of bristle-like leaves with several flowering stems. The panicle, a mere 2 to 3 centimeters in height, and like many hairgrasses has a silvery sheen. Its companion this month is quite different, although it grows in the same places. The silver hairgrass has a panicle which is much more open, with hair-like branching and tiny, well-spaced silvery spikelets. This makes for exceptionally delicate-looking grasses. This makes for an exceptional delicate-looking grass that is so attractive it used to be planted ornamentally in rockeries. Two more quite different grasses are now starting to be seen a lot on waste ground, roadsides, and at the edges of sports pitches. These are both ryegrasses, that is the perennial ryegrass, Lolium perenne, and its close relation, the Italian ryegrass, Lolium multiflorum. Ryegrasses typically have no branching, just a simple spike with 2 rows of spikelets alternately arranged, looking like 2 rows. At this time of year, there is little you can confuse them with, and they can easily be told apart, the perennial ryegrass having no awns projecting from its spikelet, and the Italian ryegrass having several. The former species is thought to be the first grass ever cultivated by man, and has been sown here in England to create pasture since the 17th century. A group of very familiar-looking grasses are the foxtails, Albicurus species. They have a flower head of compressed spikelets which is pleasant to touch and not unlike a miniature foxtail in appearance. By way of introduction, we have 2 that come into flower this month. That is the meadow foxtail, Albicurus pratensis, and the slender foxtail or blackgrass, Albicurus myoceroides. They are both tall grasses which can be told apart easily. Meadow grass has a flower head or panicle which is blunt at both ends, and the slender foxtail a panicle which is tapered at both ends. If this is not enough, meadow foxtail is typically found in damp grassland, and the slender foxtail in much drier situations, such as waste ground, roadsides, and also as an arable weed. Yet another main group of grasses are the fescues, Festuca species. Fortunately, these are represented by just 2 species this month, that is sheep's fescue, Fescue ovina, and red fescue, Festuca rubra. Fescues generally tend to be large, with loose panicles and branches that arise either singly or in pairs off the main stem, but never in whorls. They generally have 3 or more florets in each of their spikelets, giving them a slightly fatter appearance. Sheep's fescue is a grass associated with poor soils, where it can form a turf which provides valuable grazing for sheep. This tough grass forms tufts of bristle-like leaves, which are often curved and have oblong rather than oval spikelets. In comparison, the only other fescue you are likely to see this month is quite different. Red fescue isn't usually red and tends to look like a taller version of sheep's fescue, with a panicle which is more compressed at its tip, sometimes coming to a point. Although often the most common grass in a meadow, in its different forms it is also a grass of fine lawns and sports fields. One other fescue, which isn't really a fescue, is the squirrel-tail fescue, Vulpea bromoides. The squirrel-tail refers to the many long horns that give the grass a much hairier look than other fescues. Its panicle tends to be much more compact than the other two fescues and is often found in sandy areas and on railway embankments. Bromes are yet another group of very diverse grasses. This month, the first to be seen will be barren brome, Barren Bromus sterilis, which has many typical features of the group, such as a loosely branched panicle with long stalked spikelets that tend to hang down. Other features of barren broom that are that it is often purple and its panicles droop so much they often bend and sway in the wind. It is also unusual just having one floret in each of its panicles, making them look very thin, as if they were barren. This is the grass that is ubiquitous in London on waste ground and roadsides for much of the rest of the year. Millets tend to be hairless grasses with grey-green leaves and panicles of well-separated spikelets with no horns. There is just one you might find this month, but is likely to be the most impressive grass you see the whole month. That is wood millet, Milium effusum. It grows sometimes in numbers in old woodland, particularly beechwoods. Here it can reach 180 centimeters in height, with a typical wide-open panicle decorated with tiny hornless spikelets at the end of long branches. Its size and elegance explain why gardeners plant it as an ornamental in the shadier parts of their gardens. Sweet grasses, Glyceria species, are another type of grass, this time associated with aquatic habitats. There are 2 this month that are instantly recognizable due to their floating ribbon-like leaves that we see on the surface of lakes and slow-moving rivers. These are floating sweetgrass, Glyceria fluitans, and plicate sweetgrass, Glyceria plicata. They can be told apart by looking at their leaves, which in floating grass suddenly narrow towards the tips, whereas in plicate sweetgrass are much more tapered. Also, the panicles of the former are far less branched. Than those of the latter. The seeds of these grasses are both edible and sweet, sufficiently so that cattle are known to wade out into lakes to eat them. Lastly, there are 2 more very noticeable grasses that are likely to be seen a lot. The first is cocksfoot, Dactylis glomerata, which seems to be almost everywhere. Not just now, but for most of the rest of the year. It is a distinctive tall coarse grass with densely packed spikelets in rounded clusters that are often tinged with lilac. Its long flat leaves also have prominent keels. At one time it was an important grass of permanent pasture, and its hay provided food for horses. And the second is Sweet Vernal Grass, Anthoxanthum odoratum. In mid-April, on the dry meadows and commons that it prefers, it is likely to be the only flowering grass you will see. Its densely packed terminal spikes that start off greenish yellow and then turn to a golden yellow usually allow for easy identification. What sets this grass apart are the glands in its spikelets that emit the famous soothing scent cumarim, which we associate with hayfields in high summer. This scent also gets stronger when the grass is either dried or crushed, as you sometimes notice when lawns are cut. Although of little use as cattle fodder, it is included in most seed mixtures purely because of its scent.